welcome. And can I start by thanking Erin? I have to say it was you and the care-experienced young people that I've met over the past 5 years of being in the Scottish Parliament that have inspired me. You inspired me to make sure that every single young person, wherever they are born, gets the opportunity that you have worked so hard for, to learn, to go to university, to choose your own future. I wanted to return here to where I launched my leadership campaign last summer, promising a relentless focus on the future of Scotland. I'm proud to return here today to present Labour's manifesto for a Scottish election that offers more possibility, more potential for change than ever before. We ask the people of Scotland for both their constituency and party votes in this election to ensure that our Scottish Parliament seizes the opportunity for change offered by our new powers. This is a manifesto in the best traditions of the Labour Party. This plan for a Labour government is a Labour at our boldest best. It is the return of the Labour Party that gave us the NHS, the minimum wage, the Labour Party that established the Scottish Parliament. It is a positive plan that returns to Labour's roots and invests in our nation's future. Our manifesto isn't about the politician on the front cover. It is about the people of Scotland. It is about the powers that Scotland holds. It is about the potential of our great nation. Now that we can lay every party's manifesto side by side, the decision we are faced with at this election is obvious. It is the big choice set out at the start of this document. We know that unless we make different decisions, austerity will continue. We have to have higher ambitions for Scotland and for our Parliament's new powers than simply being a conveyor belt for Tory cuts. And faced with that choice, between using the powers of the Scottish Parliament or cutting into our nation's future, we choose to use the powers, to invest in the future of the economy, to invest in the potential of our people. And the arguments about how to use the new powers of the Scottish Parliament over these last few weeks may have seemed technical, but the difference between using the powers and carrying on with the status quo with another SNP majority is stark. It's £3 billion worth of unnecessary cuts and years more of austerity. Labour are now the only alternative to that. So, one promise underpins all other promises in this manifesto. Our different choices on funding the services we rely on mean that we alone can promise that spending on public services will rise in real terms. And the failure of other parties to match our ambition in using the powers of the Parliament undermines every promise in their manifesto, because it simply isn't credible to promise more spending on the NHS, on schools, on childcare, whilst also accepting billions of pounds more of extra austerity. So we're honest about the scale of the challenge and the opportunity to do things differently. We all benefit from better public services, and I believe people are willing to pay together to protect them and improve them, provided they know that the richest pay their fair share. So we will ask the top 1%, those earning over £150,000 a year, to pay a fair share. and we will get tough on those who don't pay in, but still expect to get something back. If you don't pay your fair share of taxes, you should not get taxpayers' money. No public contracts for those companies who avoid paying their taxes. We will also scrap the unfair council tax. 80% will pay less than they do now. We will fix the funding of local services for the long term, and we will deliver on that promise first made by the SNP a decade ago. Because we are being honest about how we will pay for our promises, you know we can afford to keep them. We can afford to offer a more radical vision for change. We can raise our ambitions for Scotland. We have higher ambitions on how we care for our children. For years, parents have been offered guarantees on childcare that are not worth the manifesto paper they were written on. We want childcare that fits around parents' lives, that is flexible, affordable and accessible. So we will start a revolution in childcare, a breakfast club in every primary school, and massive investment in after-school sports and activities. Before the school day begins, we'll make sure our children are well nourished. At the end of the day, we'll make sure that they can take part in activities that keep them healthy and develop their character. In between, we will make sure that every child gets a world-class education, because we have higher aspirations for how we prepare our children for the future. As Erin so eloquently put it, where you are going in life should not depend on where you start your life. So our manifesto sets an ambition to close the gap in educational attainment between the richest and the rest within a generation. We will provide £1,000 extra investment in every child from a poor background direct to head teachers, funded by bringing back the 50p top rate of tax. And we will restore the unforgivable cuts to student bursaries. We will guarantee student support for students in further education for the first time, and we will give every child who grows up in care a full grant worth £6,000 over and above existing support. We invest in education for young people because it is the most important economic policy. But we won't stop with our young people. We have higher ambitions for a growing economy where everyone can work. So our manifesto doesn't just commit Labour to full employment, it commits us to good employment. We can do better than the Tory approach of welfare cuts for those out of work and the SNP's college cuts for those trying to get back into work. We will create a new employment service for Scotland, Skills Scotland. For those out of a job, it will offer more training and help to move into work. For those in a job, it will offer more support to move on up into work. It is part of a new economic plan for increasing productivity, supporting industry and fostering a new generation of entrepreneurs. And we offer a positive vision for supporting those who need the support of society. As we continue to campaign for change across the UK, we will use our new powers to scrap the bedroom tax. We will begin to put right the inequality in the women's pension system. We will increase support for carers and tackle child poverty by doubling the maternity grant for new mums. The party that had the ambition to create the NHS in the 1940s today sets out a vision that will secure the future of the NHS for the 2040s. We will protect the NHS from cuts. We will protect the NHS from privatisation and oppose TTIP. We will protect the local NHS services currently under threat. We will tackle inequalities that mean that a poor citizen of Scotland will die years earlier than someone in a more affluent area. We will guarantee an appointment at a GP surgery within 48 hours. We'll invest in mental health services for young people. And we will cut waiting times for cancer results. If your GP suspects you might have cancer, you will see a specialist and get results within a fortnight. We want a Scotland where our artists and musicians, museums and galleries flourish. So we will protect the cultural life of Scotland and reject the short-sighted cuts to the creative core of our nation. I am proud that we are the only party promising to protect culture and art spending in real terms across the next Parliament. Already, because we have been bold, we have led the debate in Scottish politics. When I announced we would protect tax credits, the Scottish Parliament was forced for the first time to debate what we would do with the new powers. When I raised educational inequality week after week, it was barely on the radar. Now it is in every party's manifesto. And when I announced our plans to use the new tax powers to stop the cuts, it didn't just start a debate, it has defined this election. Scottish politics is moving on from the arguments of the past. Because however people voted in the past, I believe most are now united in one wish, that we use the powers we have now, that we use them to deliver real change now, not to wait and wait for a distant, promised land. Arguments about what we can't do have to give way to a real plan for what we will do to make people's lives better. We cannot afford to dwell on the arguments of the past when the challenges we face are so great and the opportunities for change so exciting. So this is the most positive manifesto Labour have ever published for a Scottish Parliament election. We present this alternative programme for government, our prospectus for change, to the Scottish people with a simple message. If you want to use the powers to make the changes we offer, you have to vote for it. As many as 1 in 4 voters at this election are undecided. And I want to speak directly to them as they make up their minds on how to use both their votes. If you are still unsure how to vote, here's our plan. We'll tax the richest 1% so we can invest in our schools, so we can stop the cuts to public services and the NHS. If you want that, you have to vote for it. You have to use both your votes, both ballot papers for Labour. This isn't just a manifesto of ideas. It's a manifesto of one idea, a belief that trend isn't destiny, that we can choose to be different, and that if we have the courage to do things differently, then there is nothing that we can't overcome. Of course, change doesn't come easy, but voting for change is easy. At the stroke of a pencil, we can vote to invest in our future and stop the cuts that are coming. So let's spend these last days saying to the people of Scotland, if you want that, you have to vote for it. Vote Labour on both ballot papers. Thank you.